Nobody, and I mean nobody, saw this coming. A 20-year-old from Quezon City, Philippines, steps onto the sun-scorched hard courts of Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, faces off against a three-time Grand Slam champion nearly twice her age, falls behind in the opening set, gets pulled into a punishing 3-hour battle of endurance, and somehow, someway, finds a way to win. What Alex Eala just accomplished against Laura Siegemund at the 2026 Miami Open is not merely a tennis match. It is a declaration. It is a crowning moment. And by the time you learn how this entire thing played out, the controversy, the confrontation with the umpire, the crowd going absolutely wild, you will understand why the whole tennis world is buzzing about this young woman right now. Let me paint the picture for you, because the backstory here makes everything even more remarkable. Exactly 1 year ago, almost to the day, Alex Eala walked into this very same tournament as a wildcard ranked number 140 inches the world. She was not expected to win a single match. Instead, she went on a rampage that nobody in the history of Philippine tennis had ever produced. She eliminated Jelena Ostapenko, a former Grand Slam champion. She dismantled Madison Keys, the reigning Australian Open winner at the time, in straight sets. She cruised past Paula Badosa via walkover. And then, in the quarterfinals, she delivered the performance of a lifetime, defeating the world number 2 6-2, 7-5, becoming the first Filipina ever to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal. Her run came to an end only when Jessica Pegula edged her out in 3 grueling sets in the semis. But by that point, the statement had been made. Alex Eala had arrived. The entire sport knew her name. But here is the thing about breakthroughs. And this is what separates the truly great from the one-hit wonders. Breakthroughs get you through the door. Consistency keeps you in the room. And when Eala returned to Miami for the 2026 edition, the narrative had completely shifted. She was no longer the anonymous wildcard with nothing to lose. She was the world number 29. She had a career-high ranking. She had 390 points to defend from that semifinal run. She was seeded. She was anticipated to deliver. The pressure was immense. And that is what makes what unfolded today so extraordinary. Her opponent was Laura Siegemund. And if you are not deeply familiar with women's tennis, let me tell you exactly who this woman is, because underestimating her would be a catastrophic mistake. Siegemund is 38 years old. She has been on the professional circuit for over a decade and a half. She has won the US Open in women's doubles, the US Open in mixed doubles, the French Open in mixed doubles, and the WTA Finals in doubles. Her career-high singles ranking was world number 27, higher than where Eala stands right now. She has a career record of over 340 victories. She has witnessed everything, competed against everyone, and endured every kind of pressure the sport can throw at a human being. This is not some pushover first-round opponent. This is a wise, battle-hardened veteran who knows how to make young players uneasy. And that is precisely what she set out to do. The match got underway, and Eala came out absolutely on fire. She was locked in from the very first point. Aggressive off the baseline, moving inside the court, taking the ball early, and before anyone in the stadium could settle into their seats, she had stormed out to a 3-0 lead. It looked like it was going to be a masterclass. It looked like the ranking gap was going to tell the whole story. But this is where Laura Siegemund does what Laura Siegemund does best. She refused to go away. The fourth game of that opening set turned into an absolute marathon. We are talking over 10 minutes for a single game. Siegemund dug in, stretched out rallies, altered the tempo, disrupted Eala's rhythm, and when she finally held, you could feel the momentum in the stadium begin to tilt. From that point, the German veteran clawed her way back, leveling the set at 3 games apiece. And suddenly, the match that had appeared to be a formality was a dogfight. The closing games of the first set were pure theater. Eala twice placed Siegemund under enormous pressure on her serve, forcing the German to hold just to stay alive in the set. Both times, Siegemund delivered. She was clutch. She was composed. She pushed the set to a tiebreak, and in that tiebreak, she produced moments of genuine brilliance. Eala even had a set point, 1 point away from claiming the opening set, but Siegemund rescued it. And then with the kind of ruthless precision that only comes from decades of experience, Siegemund closed the tiebreak by driving a serve right into Eala's body, a shot that gave the young Filipina absolutely nowhere to go. First set to Siegemund, 7-6. Now here is where a lot of young players would crumble. Dropping a tight first set after leading 3-0, after having a set point, against a veteran who is now riding a wave of confidence. That is the kind of moment that breaks players. That is the kind of moment where the crowd goes silent, where body language collapses, where a match can slip away in a matter of minutes. But Alex Eala is not that kind of player, and what happened next proved it. But before we get into the stunning comeback, you need to know about the controversy that erupted midway through the second set, because this is where the match took on an entirely different dimension and where social media absolutely detonated. Siegemund held serve to open the second set, and then Eala held hers. In the third game, Eala broke Siegemund's serve to go up 2-1. The match was swinging back in her direction. The crowd was rallying behind her. Filipino fans in the stands were starting to make noise again. And then during Eala's next service game, something happened that brought the entire match to a boiling point. Eala was standing at the baseline, ready to serve at 3-1-5 inches the game. She tossed the ball and let it drop, something that occurs dozens of times in every professional match. But instead of simply resetting and allowing Eala to serve again, Siegemund turned her back to the court, walked away toward the back of the baseline, and appeared to lodge a complaint with the chair umpire. The suggestion was that Eala was taking too long between points. The umpire responded by informing Siegemund that Eala still had 6 seconds remaining on the shot clock when the miss happened, meaning she had done nothing wrong. But Eala was not about to let this slide. She walked up to the umpire's chair and said something that instantly went viral. "Can you watch her time? Because many times she's delaying," she told the official. She was calling out Siegemund for the very thing the German had tried to pin on her: slow play, and the data backed her up entirely. The Tennis Channel broadcast later unveiled a staggering statistic. Siegemund had surpassed the 2-5-second shot clock on 85% of her service points. 85%. Let that sink in. Eala's violation rate was 57%, which is still elevated, but the gap between the two was enormous. The umpire attempted to settle things down, urging both players to watch the clock. But Eala was not finished. She stopped the point, Eala said firmly. "I was about to serve and she turned around." The umpire acknowledged it. "I know. I understand." "That's fine," the official replied. And then in a moment that captured the entire dynamic of the match, Siegemund was overheard saying, "It's not about the time. It's about the focus." And there it was. The gamesmanship was out in the open. The veteran was attempting to get inside the young player's head, trying to disrupt her rhythm, trying to deploy every trick available to slow down the rising star who was threatening to blow her off the court. And this is important context, because Laura Siegemund has a well-documented history of this. At the 2023 US Open, Coco Gauff, one of the biggest names in women's tennis, filed an almost identical complaint about Siegemund's pace of play. It is part of Siegemund's tactical toolkit, and there is no denying that it is effective. It gets opponents agitated. It shatters their concentration. It introduces an element of chaos into matches that would otherwise be straightforward. But what makes Eala special, what sets her apart from so many gifted young players who have come and gone, is that she did not let it rattle her. She absorbed the gamesmanship. She addressed it directly with the umpire. And then she went back out there and played some of the finest tennis of her young career. The remainder of the second set was clinical. That early break in the third game was all Eala needed. She consolidated, held her serve with authority, and competed with a level of composure that is almost unsettling for a 20-year-old. She took the second set 6-3, and the match was level. But the manner in which she won that set told you everything. This was not the anxious wild card from a year ago. This was a top 3-0 player who believed she belonged on this stage. This was a competitor. The third set is where the match became a genuine epic. Eala broke Siegemund immediately, racing out to a 2-0 lead, and the stadium was electric. Filipino fans were on their feet. You could feel the energy shifting. the sense that something extraordinary was unfolding, that the kid from Quezon City was about to put the finishing touches on a performance that would reverberate across the entire sport. But Siegemund, and you have to credit this woman because her resilience is otherworldly, broke right back 2-1. The stadium held its breath. Then came the fourth game. And this was the moment that decided everything. It was a marathon game on Siegemund's serve, and Eala needed 4 breakpoints, 4 opportunities, before she finally converted. The tension was unbearable. Every rally felt like it stretched on forever. Every shot carried the full weight of the entire match. And when Eala finally cracked Siegemund's serve to go up 3-1, there was an eruption from the stands that you could probably hear from South Beach. From 3-1, Eala consolidated the break and held to go up 4-1, then 5-2. She was 2 games from victory, serving for the match. And then Siegemund, serving to stay alive at 2-5, showed one last surge of fight. Eala had the upper hand at 0-30. She pushed it to 15-30. She had 2 match points, 2 chances to close it out, and both times, Siegemund rescued them. The German held serve to make it 3-5. And now, Eala had to serve it out. The pressure was overwhelming. 1 year ago, she had been a wild card with nothing to lose. Now, she was fighting to defend a legacy. Now she was striving to prove that last year was not a fluke. And she did it. Eala held her serve and closed out the match, 6-7, 6-3, 6-3, after more than 3 hours of absolute warfare. 3 hours against a 3-time Grand Slam champion on the same courts where she made history 12 months earlier. If that does not give you chills, I do not know what will. The reaction was immediate and it was everywhere. Filipino tennis fans, who have turned Eala into a genuine national hero, flooded social media with celebrations. The phrase Elasmania trended once again, just as it had a year ago during her wildcard run. Tennis analysts and commentators were quick to point out the significance of the victory. Not because of the ranking gap, because Eala actually ranks higher than Siegemund, but because of what it represented. This was Eala returning to the scene of her breakthrough and demonstrating that she could handle the pressure of defending points, of being the hunted instead of the hunter, of carrying the hopes of an entire nation on her shoulders. And let us talk about those expectations for a moment, because the story of Alex Eala is so much bigger than tennis. She grew up in Quezon City, the largest city in Metro Manila. Her grandfather, Roberto Manalo, introduced her to tennis and coached her as a young child. By the time she was 13 years old, she had relocated halfway around the world to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Manacor, Spain, the same academy founded by one of the greatest competitors in the history of sports. She was a child leaving her family, her country, everything she had ever known to pursue a dream that no Filipino had ever achieved at this level in tennis. And the way she plays, you can see the Nadal influence, not in power, but in mentality. The relentless fight, the refusal to surrender a single point without making her opponent earn it, the ability to lift her game when the pressure is at its peak, the way she elevated her level after dropping that first set today, that is pure Nadal DNA. That is what the Academy instilled in her. That is what makes her extraordinary. She became the first Filipino to win the Les Petits as the premier international tennis tournament for players between 12 and 14. She captured junior Grand Slam titles. She became the first player from the Philippines to win a Grand Slam main draw match in the Open era at the 2025 US Open. And now, at 20 years old, she sits at world number 29 and has just delivered another signature victory at the Miami Open, picking up right where she left off in spectacular fashion. The road ahead is both thrilling and treacherous. Her next opponent will be the winner of the match between Magdalena Frech and none other than Iga Swiatek. Yes, you read that right. There is a very real possibility that Eala and Swiatek could meet again right here in Miami, in the very same round where Eala produced the upset of the 2025 season. Can you imagine? The narrative practically writes itself. The young Filipina who stunned the world by defeating Swiatek last year, potentially getting a rematch on the same courts 1 round earlier, with the entire world watching. The tennis gods have a flair for drama, and this draw is proof. But even if that rematch does not come to pass, The fact that Eala has successfully navigated a grueling 3-hour examination against a savvy veteran like Siegemund, complete with gamesmanship, controversy, a dropped first set, and the crushing burden of expectation, tells you everything about where this young woman's career is headed. She is not here for a moment. She's not here for a headline. She is here to build something lasting. She is here to place the Philippines on the tennis map in a way that nobody before her ever has. And the numbers underline just how critical this fortnight is for her trajectory. Those 390 points from last year's semifinal start dropping off her ranking now. A deep run, quarterfinals or better, not only protects her top 3-0 status, but positions her favorably for the clay court season, where seedings at Madrid and Rome could determine whether she draws favorable matchups or gets thrown into early round battles against the biggest names in the sport. An early exit would have been devastating. It could have potentially pushed her out of seeded range, into tougher draws, into a downward spiral that is brutally difficult to escape on the WTA tour. But she did not allow that to happen. She survived the storm. She weathered the gamesmanship. She absorbed the pressure. And she came out the other side with a victory that was messy, exhausting, controversial, and absolutely magnificent. This is what the rise of a champion looks like. Not clean, not easy, not a straight line. It looks like a 2-0-year-old from the Philippines, standing at the baseline, down a set to a 3-8-year-old. Grand Slam champion with the entire weight of a nation's expectations pressing down on her shoulders and choosing to fight, choosing to compete, choosing to believe that she is skilled enough, strong enough, and courageous enough to win. 3 hours, 3 sets, 1 incredible result. And the Miami Open is just getting started. If Alex Eala keeps competing like this, with this fire, this composure, this maturity, then the question is not whether she can replicate what she accomplished here last year. The question is whether she can surpass it. And after today, after what we just witnessed, I would not bet against her. Not for a second. This tournament is about to get very, very interesting. Stay tuned.